Sales are in for the Nintendo Switch in the Japanese market, according to Media Create last week, which ran December 17th through December 23rd. And needless to say, it was another awesome week for Switch. So we saw Super Smash Bros. Ultimate remain at the number one spot and actually grow in sales week over week to 452,000 units, which is about 50,000 units higher than last week's 400,000. Or, in other words, an 11% increase. Super Mario Party chimed in at number 2, moving 155,000 units, which was a 59% increase. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee are at number 3, moving 144,770 units, or, in other words, 33% increase. Dragon Quest Builders for Nintendo, the Dragon Quest Builders 2, chimed in at the number 5 spot at 97,673. This is actually a really interesting point because the PlayStation 4 version chimed in at number 4 at 110,000 units, 285. Now, that's important to note right now because we have something to talk about in terms of PlayStation 4 versus Nintendo Switch later on in this video. Minecraft chimes in at 48,359 units, which is a 75% increase week over week. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe chimes in at 47,096 units, which is a 60% increase. At the number 8 spot is Splatoon 2, moving 41,405 units, or a 53% increase. And then the next game for Switch lands at number 11, which is Kirby Star Allies, which actually holds its spot from last week. However, it did see an 80% increase in sales to 21,643. Super Mario Odyssey is right behind that at number 12, dropping just out of the top 10, despite an increase in sales of 48% to 21,380. 4,000 units. Breath of the Wild drops from number 10 to number 14. However, it saw an 18% increase to 16,093 units, now moving 1.2 million in total. We then see the next major Nintendo Switch game all the way down at number 19 with Mario Tennis Aces, moving 10,957, which was a 106% increase, one of the largest percentage increases for a Switch game on this list. Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon actually still make the top 20 with an increase of 52% to 10,140. Katamari Damacy Reroll, a game by Bandai Namco Games on Switch, launched as well as number 17, moving 11,667 units. Nintendo Switch owned 13 of the top 20, with PlayStation 4 owning 5 and 3DS owning 2. Now, this is where we actually get into some interesting sales figures when it comes to talking about hardware. Because Nintendo Switch actually saw a slight decrease week over week, moving 278,701 units over the 281,213 they moved the week before. Now remember, this last week was Japan's typically biggest week of sales for video games. However, Nintendo Switch has just kind of been rolling around 280,000 units for 3 weeks now, so maybe expecting a massive increase or a massive decrease, it was a bit presumptuous by some people, including myself, just given the sheer amount of numbers that are moving. I mean, 280,000 units in any given week is stunning, and Nintendo's basically done that now for 3 straight weeks. And having done that for 3 straight weeks, not only has, the lifetime to date sales moved ahead of 6 million and is closing in on 7, it is totally at 6,672,014 units. What's crazy is, if you don't count the PlayStation 4 Pro, if you just look at the base PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Slim model, Nintendo Switch has now officially outsold the base PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Slim, which moved about 6.5 million units. That's right, about 1 million of that 7.5 that PlayStation 4 has was PlayStation 4 Pro. So Switch hasn't even had a hardware revision yet, but it's outsold the original PlayStation 4 in Japan, and it's done that in way less time between when PlayStation 4 was launched to PlayStation 4 Pro. So Switch is just massively outdoing PlayStation 4 in terms of its sales pace in Japan. Obviously, 3DS is still chugging along there with 26,936 units, which is a slight bump from last week, but a massive decrease from the year before. Switch sales in general have kind of gone way down in Japan, kind of showing that 3DS is finally reaching the end of life. I think the Mario and Luigi game coming next year might be Nintendo's last true effort on the system. Even though, hey, if you own a 3DS and you loved Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, you might as well pick up Luigi's Mansion because it in my opinion, is a better game. So Anyways, both are fantastic. I honestly think these numbers for Nintendo, it's hard to be surprised at this point. We've seen these same similar numbers for 3 straight weeks. We've also seen every single game except Smash Bros. See a weekly increase. We saw Smash Bros. Launch at 1.2, drop to 400,000, now back up to 452. We'll see how it ends the year. Smash Bros. Itself is over 2 million units, in just Japan, which is just crazy. We know it moved 3 million units in 11 days in the United States. Who knows where it's at now? Maybe it's at 4 million by now, maybe 5. Just the U.S., that's potentially 7 million between the United States and Japan alone. Now count the rest of the world, and oh my gosh, Smash Bros. Might already be above 10 million units. That's insane to even think about. Super Mario Party seeing such a massive increase also to me kind of shows that Super Mario Party is one of those games that people don't really realize how well a game like Super Mario Party can sell. I mean, no, it hasn't cracked 1 million units yet, but it's definitely going to. And if you look at some of the other titles that are sitting, at over 1 million units, you're looking at the Mario Odysseys of the world, which are slowly creeping up to 2 million. The Breath of the Wilds of the world, which are only at 1.2. It's possible Super Mario Party even eventually passes Breath of the Wild in Japan. And Breath of the Wild is the best-selling Zelda game ever in Japan. So that's a very interesting thing to sit there and think about. Mario Tennis Aces doesn't have the same kind of sales power as the Super Mario Party does. Obviously, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe itself is almost at 2 million as well. And if Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey, and even Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, which is now sitting, at 1.2, 1.3 million units. If all 3 of those end up hitting 2 million, that would be insane because it's pretty rare that so many games on one platform move over 2 million units, and it kind of shows how vibrant the platform is. And if you want to know what's actually the best-selling Switch game, which will probably be passed by Smash Bros. Eventually, it's actually Splatoon 2, which is no surprise. We know Splatoon has a massive audience in Japan. Well, Splatoon 2 has sold 2.8 million units so far. Probably will hit 3 million at some point here. And, well, the way Smash is going, it's probably going to crush that by the end of January. So that's very, very interesting. Obviously, we don't know how much Smash Bros. Sales might drop off after the holidays. It's not going to sit around 400,000 every single week. If it does that, that's insane. I just don't know that Smash... I don't know that any game can really have that kind of sales power week to week to week to week. But month over month, I think it's still going to sell. Would I be shocked if it sold an extra million in Japan in January? I don't know that would be that surprising at this point. Especially when New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe lands in early January. And we can't forget the sales power of the New Super Mario Bros. Series has had over its lifetime from Wii to DS to 3DS to, well, Wii U even, and now obviously on Switch. So we'll have to wait and see how that works. Obviously, Nintendo needs to give us a Nintendo Direct. I feel like they have to give us a Nintendo Direct in January just because we know about a bunch of games for 2019. We just don't have release dates yet. Are we getting Yoshi's Crafted World, really, really early? Are we getting Fire Emblem Three Houses really, really early? What's happening? What's the spring going to look like? What's the first 6 months going to look like heading into E3? There's a lot of stuff that we just need to know release dates for, and I think there's a lot more content ready to go than Nintendo has actually stated. They just said, hey, these games are in 2019, but a lot of those games look pretty far along. Daemon X Machina looks extremely far along. Fire Emblem Three Houses looked pretty far along based on the last time we saw it. So I'm really hoping that we get some solidified information in January. I'm not expecting a surprise announcement. Last year we ended up getting I think it happened in February in the Nintendo Red Mini, but we got the Dark Souls Remastered announcement. Maybe there's another surprise third-party announcement coming. Maybe we're getting more third-party games in 2019, as Reggie Fils-Aimé has essentially suggested. He has come out and said, look, it takes a couple years when you're not a company that's already has that support, and he thinks, give it a couple years and we're going to see that support. And he's like, hey, 2019, we're going to have more third-party support. Now, granted, Nintendo does that spin cycle all the time, so we'll see if that happens. But it'll be interesting to see if we get any sort of third-party announcements early next year. That being said, Nintendo's obviously really, really happy with the sales. I'm pretty happy with them as well, just as an onlooker, as someone who's interested in the sale power of games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and the Switch in general. At this point, is Switch going to pass PlayStation 4 by the end of January? I don't know, but it's definitely crushing it. PlayStation 4 is seeing better sales this week than it saw this week last year, and despite that, Switch is just destroying it. So we'll have to see. Is Switch going to hit 10 million faster than any other platform Nintendo's ever released in Japan? That I think that's a debate that we can actually have and examine one day. And obviously, we know Switch is doing well everywhere else in the world. So, it's probably well over 9 million, probably close to 10 million units in just the U.S. So I can't wait for January 31st. January 31st is going to be a big date because that's when we get the big holiday update. And then we get to see where Switch is sitting. Is it going to come close to the 20 million mark? Has it moved over 30 million units worldwide? That's something I'm very curious in hearing about because I do think the more and more successful Switch is, the more likely we are to get more and more games moving forward, and the less I become worried about the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Scarlet. A lot of people are worried about the next generation systems because they're kind of right around the corner. Even if it's not 2019, it's probably happening in 2020, and with just having that knowledge in the back of our brains, I think all of us as Switch owners are like, well, what's that going to do to Switch? But honestly, if Switch is just crushing it and getting Wii-like kind of figures, well, at that point, what are we worried about? Because we're still going to get tons and tons of support. The only thing I would be worried about is if Nintendo will continue to support Switch as hardcore as they have been so far and seem to be lined up for in 2019. Because that's been a problem for Nintendo in the past with Wii and even DS where, they came hard for a few years and then it kind of felt like it fell off. I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time around. And honestly, if they treat Switch as they should, as a replacement for Wii U and now 3DS as it fizzles out, then I think we'll have less to worry about because we're going to get all the Japanese support. We're going to have all of Nintendo's handheld and home console teams working together on Switch. I think that's the ideal future for Nintendo. That's the promise I felt Switch offered, back when it was unveiled in October of 2016. And I think finally in 2019 and beyond, we could see the fruits of that labor and see Nintendo finally admit we're a one-system company and that one system does everything we do best in one place. And I think that is the best way to serve consumers with or without third-party support. That being said, I'm Nathaniel Rufflejans from Nintendo Prime. Be sure to enter our Nintendo Switch Super Smash Bros. Ultimate giveaway down in the description. It is a 50,000 subscriber giveaway, so when we hit 50K, I will be announcing a winner for that. And I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.